And the learning loss that has been persistent following terrible, terrible decisions made previously to keep schools closed for an extended period of time is having a lasting impact, particularly on our younger kids.
Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin calling for action to help combat learning losses during the pandemic. Lydia, you're taking a closer look at this.
Yeah, Brian, that's right. Across the country, students are struggling to catch up on that lost time. And experts say students need about 4 to 4.5 more months in the classroom to close the gap. When schools closed their doors to students in 2020, 50 million kids were forced to learn from home. Terry Schilling's children, enrolled in Fairfax County Public Schools in Virginia, were among them.
Remote learning was a nightmare. The things that they were trying to teach kids was a nightmare. It just was not going well.
Now the nation's test scores are plummeting to multi-decade lows. Only 26% of 8th graders are proficient or above in math. About 1/3 of 4th graders are proficient or above in reading. Unless reversed, the setbacks will snowball. Students could lose roughly $70,000 in lifetime earning potential, according to a study from Stanford. The losses could total $28 trillion over the rest of the century.
So as we go back to school, what educators are saying to me, and what I know as a longtime educator, is that the focus we need now is on solutions that we know work.
But emerging classroom changes concern some parents. Later start times, shrinking school weeks, so-called equitable grading, and virtual teachers. Schilling wants a different education for his kids. He enrolled them in private Catholic school. His organization, American Principles Project, is advocating for more parents to have that freedom too.
We support giving parents more direct support. We love the idea of education savings accounts. Those are a great tool to give parents more power and control.
And we know parents are thirsty for more of those options. More than 1 million students left the public education school system during the pandemic. And guys, they've not yet come back. And we know that there are some troubling trends happening across the country now. As experts say, we need more time in schools. We have about 850 school districts in this country that have now truncated their school week to just 4 days instead of the typical 5. It seems like that's a move in the opposite direction.
Yeah, you need, what did you say, 4 to 4.5 more months of education on top of what they're doing. And yeah, like all we hear about is we want to take the work week down to, or the school week down to 4 weeks.
And the work week.
And the work, yeah, everybody just wants 4 days. And Jackie, the thing that gets me is you've got all these failure issues, but what they're saying is, well, let's just make the failure part of the system by not failing you. When you fail, you're never going to catch up that way.
And that's the thing. There's just this like slow degradation across the board of our standards in this country, whether you're talking about education specifically or really anything else. I made the joke about the work week, but, you know, people not going back to the office, not taking things seriously, people expecting the government to be there to pay their bills for them and to back them up when they've taken out loans that they can't pay off. It's just sort of this change in culture. So instead of calling it, you know, talking about Bidenomics, we have to come up with sort of a culture term, because President Biden has had a huge impact on how people sort of live and think and are approaching life in this country that's going to set us way, way behind the 8 ball, Lydia.
Well, there are some bright spots here to highlight. You know, states can be mini laboratories for what's working, and I'm really happy that we get to highlight some good news in the state of Mississippi. Students' reading scores are on the rise there, with some even calling it a miracle, the turnaround. Joining us now is Mississippi Association of Educators President Erica Jones. Erica, we are so pleased to have you with us today. I wanted to just highlight some of the stats for our viewers quickly. Mississippi went from being ranked the second worst in the country for reading scores among 4th graders back in 2013, 49th in the country, to now most recently being ranked 21st, solidly in the middle, above average across the country. You know, Erica, give us your take. How did the state of Mississippi turn reading scores around for youngsters there?
Thank you so much for having me today. I am a 2nd grade teacher, so I just can remember that we did a shift in how we taught reading, especially at the elementary level. One thing we did was we started to put literacy coaches in all of our elementary schools, K-3. And another take on that is we really started to shift what we started doing as teachers and assistant teachers, being able to equip ourselves with more tools in order to deliver reading instruction.
Erica, you know, the problem in America sometimes is that people don't understand the implications of something until it's actually like smack them across the face. And you've got kids that we're talking about, like grade school aged kids here that are falling behind. If we had a crystal ball and we could fast forward 10 or 15 years and see where these kids are going to end up, I'm guessing the picture wouldn't look so good. I'm guessing that would have implications on our economy. There would be a ripple effect that I think most people aren't taking into consideration here. And that's why it's so important to fight to keep our kids caught up, correct? I mean, what's your insight on this?
So I have a daughter at home also who's in the elementary school, and I know one thing that is important is that we continue to work with our educators in our schools, ensuring that our students are receiving the things that they need to be successful.
Erica, I want to build on that just a little bit. I think one of the challenges we have right now in education is we're tolerating failure too much. We're letting kids fail and we're passing them along. I read something interesting about the reading program in your state. If a child gets to 3rd grade and they can't read at grade level, you won't pass them along. You won't make any excuses. They're not going to move if they can't do the job. That strikes me as the most just thing you could ever do to a kid, is make sure they don't move on until they're able to. Talk about that policy that you have and how it's working.
So a couple of years ago, our legislators did put in place laws that centered around our 3rd graders and their assessments. And one of those laws do indicate that if our 3rd graders are not successful on what we call the reading gate, that they will not move to the next grade. We have had educators to voice concerns around it, as well as parents. But one thing that we do know is that putting in those indicators early on and assessing our students early on, it helps them in the long run.
Erica, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you for fighting for the students and doing the right thing. It's something we're not seeing across the board, but we appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, be sure to tune into a special edition of The Big Money Show this Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. It's the Big Money Playbook, Education in America. It's going to give parents and students the tools they need to take their power back and usher in a new era of success. We're going to be joined by special guests, Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy and former Education Secretary Betsy DeVos. There's still seats available, a few of them, to join our live studio audience in New York City. So go to eventbrite.com and search Big Money. This is going to be a good one, Brian.
Gets better every day.
Yeah.